Hello, folks. Welcome to Holding On with Holder, where I talk to interesting people about interesting topics. My name is Steve Holder, and I am your host. Back with me today is Gabby Choto, psychic, tarot reader, and medium. Welcome back, Gabby.
Hi, Steve.
It's been, what, 3 weeks since you've been here? Seems like a
Yes.
long time.
Yes, I've actually shared my link, and a lot of my family and friends viewed it. So
Well,
they
good.
liked the interview, and they were like very proud of my first interview ever. So
Okay. Maybe they'll be more proud of you second. Who knows?
yeah, I don't know. Slowly and surely, my like I said, it won't build so quickly, but it'll get there eventually. And I'm willing to like wait and watch it climb as it goes.
Okay. So you've been keeping busy with your readings lately?
Keeping busy with my readings, keeping busy with the dogs, keeping busy with my son in school. I do have readings here and there, and I do have a lot of friends that do recommend me to other people. And, I tell my friends all the time, like, if you want a reading, make sure you're ready for it. Because not a lot of people are mentally and emotionally ready for what they're going to hear, but they also have to understand that sometimes it goes by the energy, so it can change. And, like, if it's some bad news, it could always change. So I tell them do not hold on to the reading in just that moment.
So you do it honestly. You're not like those people that I always tell people what they want to hear.
Yeah.
A lot of
And
people hate to do
sometimes,
that. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes if there's certain things I can't answer for them. I literally tell them, I'm going to be honest, I can't answer this for you because you need to find out on your own. Not everything is meant to come to light.
Yeah.
Tarot is used to be. I tell people don't use tarot as a life, as like a life thing where you have to go by what it says. I tell them use it for guidance. Okay, you want to know how the person feels. Okay, you know how they feel, but if they're not showing you through their actions how they feel about you, don't don't be like, oh well, I know they love me. Yeah, people can love you, but not everybody will show you that they love you. Some people have trouble showing how to love, so I tell them, eventually they'll show it, or I tell them move on. No, I'm just kidding. I tell them this person loves you, yes, or whatever they're going through. I was like, it's going to work out in the end. Just have faith, and
Yeah.
just know that it'll align eventually. Not in the exact moment, because I tell people, remember, it doesn't have to be in the now, it could be in the future. That's the thing about cards. The cards will tell you, but it's not going to tell you exactly when, because there is no time frame. So what we say in the spiritual world is that in the spirit world there is no such thing as time. Time is an illusion. Like, for us it could be a week, could be a year. For like year, there is just very different. So that's why we don't go by time sometimes.
So I've heard some people say that the past, the present, and the future are all happening at the same time. Do you believe that?
I do believe that it has been confirmed by NASA also that there are different dimensions.
Mm.
So there could be another you like in the past, and there could be another you. This is you now in the present, and then there's another you in the future doing whatever it is that they're doing. So it's like everything it's like everything is moving in motion. And it's pretty awesome. It's a very good theory because it literally talks about how there are different versions of you. Like there could be a Steve Holder that could be a cop in another universe, or you could
Oh,
be a judge wherever. Yeah. So there's different versions of you in like different like
parallel
universes,
universes.
parallel universes. Yes, like my mom, she always says it reminds her she's like, it's like Superman's what was his name? Dang. I had the name on. It's like the name's here, but it won't come out. Oh, Bizarro. It's like Bizarro. Bizarro is a parallel of Superman, so it's like.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
So you're going to tell us some of your paranormal experiences this evening, aren't you?
Ah, yes. I've been waiting for this date. It's like, because you know what? A lot of paranormal experiences have been more frequent, and I'm like, my time will come.
Uh-huh.
So, When I was younger, we moved here to this home, and this home used to be abandoned. Like it was um, bought by the bank, and we got it, and my parents fixed it up. When my parents were doing renovation, like my family was fixing the house, we would hear footsteps upstairs. Um, me, at one point, I don't know if I was at the home at the time, but my 3-year-old sister was missing for 2 hours, and everybody went crazy for her. They looked high and low, and what I learned is that sometimes when stuff like that happens, when you're in a sleep paralysis or stuff like that, it there's a curtain, so like sometimes the person is not aware of what's going on. My sister was in the dining room that whole time, and they've looked under the table and she wasn't there before, and they found her like again in the spot, and she was petrified because she said she saw a woman and a little boy upstairs. um, Fast forward to when I was 13, I was actually in the room upstairs. I moved downstairs, and my aunt and mother were outside. The door was open, and we have a tree here, and there was a branch, and I was just looking at the branch because I couldn't sleep. It's the summertime. Who wants to sleep during the summertime when you're like a kid or like a teenager? And I saw the leaves were rustling, and I was like, well, that's weird. There's no wind outside, and all I saw was like the the leaves itself literally were moving slowly, and I saw just these eyes staring at me. I couldn't scream. I was literally like frozen in place because I'm like, who is going to believe me that there's like, and it was a hooded figure. It was a figure that was hunched over, and it was just this black shadow with just red eyes. And I took my covers and I covered my head. And when I took the covers off, it was getting closer. It was like almost like I was playing peekaboo, and I was like, hey, I see you. You're right there. And when stuff like that happens, the temperature will drop in a room. So the temperature in my room dropped in the summertime. There no AC was needed because it just started getting warm. And by the time it got close to my window, my room was freezing, and I couldn't scream. The door was open while this was all happening, where like if my aunt and mother could have looked up, they could have seen it, but they couldn't. And it just felt like I had like a grip on my throat. This lasted for a good 2 to 3 minutes. And until I finally screamed out for my mom and she came running upstairs, it was gone.
Wow.
And I believe, I tell myself that was a Grim Reaper. It could have been a Grim Reaper.
Is this where you
Who
live
knows?
now?
This is where I live now.
Okay.
Um, when I tell my friends this story, they're like, you mean in this house that I'm sitting in
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah.
My mother has experienced it. She's had sleep paralysis where she felt like something was suffocating her, and she saw that same black robe next to her bed, and she was trying to wake my father up, but he couldn't. But she couldn't. Um, I've had incidents where I had a porcelain doll that my aunt gifted me. Me and my I loved my aunt. I love my aunt very much, and I had it at the top of my desk. When I would wake up in the morning, that porcelain doll would be in a different spot on the desk. And one day, me and my brother and my sister, we all shared a room together. We woke up to the sound of something shattered, of something just breaking, and it was that doll. It just fell off the desk.
And you seen it do that?
Um, I haven't. We were just sleeping, and all I heard was
Or
the
you just heard it?
crash.
Did you
We
have
just heard the
dogs or
crash,
cats or
and
any animals in the house?
nope,
No?
nothing. I wasn't allowed to have a cat. My cat, I got him a year ago. That was this is the only cat they'll allow, and my sister's that we recently just got.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and
I
the
used to,
one that scared.
I
I'm
was
sorry.
I used to have those sleep paralysis nightmares. And
Yeah,
I would
they're
think that there was something evil standing beside my bed, and if I didn't wake up, it was going to kill me. And it just seemed like forever I was trying to move and I couldn't.
yeah, that's it's literally what it felt like.
Yeah,
When it started to get worse as I got older, but it's like once I hit 13, literally those 3 months during the summertime were literally hell for me because I call this woman the Victorian woman. She was literally in Victorian era clothing, black, just black. Like she looked like she just came out of a funeral. And I remember like so vividly, she had no face. I was just looking at TV and I see someone come out of my brother's room, and she literally walked by as if I was like, you live here? You live here. And she stood on the top of the stairs so I can see her clearly. When I saw her and I didn't see a face, I literally had a panic attack. I screamed at the top of my lungs. My brother and sister came running downstairs. She disappeared after that, and they had to call my mother while she was working because I was hyperventilating to the point that I thought I was going to have a freaking heart attack.
wow,
Um, I've heard voices mimicking my father. Um, in the Native American, like, stories, they're usually called like, I think it's like either a Wendigo or a Skinwalker that they can shapeshift and they can mock people. I've had incidents where like that, where my father will be on the road. My father's a truck driver, and I will hear his voice, like it'll sound like he's calling me from upstairs, and I'll answer, and I'm like, wait a minute, he's not home, and I would look outside and his truck isn't there. Um, that incident occurred when one night I was sleeping and I heard two voices outside my bedroom. It was two men. It sounded like my father and my uncle. But the voices that I were hearing, I saw the shadows underneath my door, and they were trying to get into the room. Like they were literally jiggling the handle so hard, like they were trying to break in. And I called my mother. I called her crying and I said, I hear two men outside the room. And she was like, stay here. And she searched high and low. She's like, there's no one here. I was like, no, I heard them. I saw their shadows. They were literally mimicking or mocking my uncle and my father. Something told me, do not open the door, and I didn't because I just had a feeling I wasn't going to like what I was going to see.
yeah,
And I've had that same black, that I called it a grim reaper because it gave me that feeling. It just gave what it just looked deathly at the same time. I've only saw it 3 times in my life, and I'm very grateful I haven't seen it after that. I saw it in school. It followed me in school. It followed me at home, and it came to an incident where have you ever seen like the horror movies where like the music slows down? That's what happened to me. It was literally like a horror movie scene. We were sleeping, and I woke up because the radio was right next to me, and the music was playing, and it slowed down, and I was hearing a man whispering in my ear. This happened to me before, and I don't really recall much of it. But I cried and I said, "Please, I don't want to go. I don't want this to happen again." I saw a light, like a very bright light, on the left side of my bed, and it was my brother. My brother was tossing and turning. I'm guessing he's kind of awake when this is happening. And I see a little boy, maybe about my son's age. He had blonde hair, like a blonde hair, bowl, coconut bowl haircut, when the hair's like this. And he had a white shirt and overalls. Like he looked like he could have been during the Dust Bowl era, Great Depression. And he just looked at me. He just kept touching my brother. And in the corner, I saw the same dark mass that was out my window. It was in the corner of my room. And I just saw it slowly creeping in on that little boy. And I panicked so much that I heard the talking, the music stopped slowing down, the blinking alarm light on my radio just stopped, and the little boy was gone. Both the figure and the boy were gone. I called my parents and I said, "You need to come here right now." And I couldn't talk, and I love my dad. My dad exaggerates everything. My dad goes like, "Yeah," he was like half asleep. He's like, "Yeah, I hear voices all the time." I'm like, "Daddy," like, no, this is different. But I know he probably did it to make me feel better because being a teenager and all of this is happening, how do you explain it without people thinking like, "Oh, you're batshit crazy"? Like, no, this is what I experienced. Um, I was dating my son's father at the time, and I've had paranormal. We were watching The Exorcist. You know The Exorcist. I don't know if it's the fifth one where he's in Africa. Like the priest isn't like he
Talking
went to
about the
Africa.
original movie or the series?
It was like the movie series, like
Okay.
not the original movie. No, no. This one is when he goes to Africa, and there was something going on with the tribe, and I forgot. I'm pretty sure it's number five, but I could be wrong. Apparently, they were saying how that movie was like haunted. That if you watch this stuff, will happen to you. Um, I laughed it off. I'm like, "Hi, yeah, you're gonna get haunted by a movie." Like, I love horror movies. Don't get me wrong. I could watch them all night. I could go to sleep fine, lights off. I'm good for the night. But that night, me and him were just sitting down on the couch, and I see a man walk by my door, and I see the outline of the man, just like his face, like this, like he was facing that way. He's not moving. He's just there. And I tell my ex, I'm like, "Do you see that?" He's like, "See what?" I was like, "The man standing right there. He's literally standing right there." The moment my ex took a look, we have those sensor lights that they go off when something goes by.
Mhm.
The shadow moved so quick, the lights went off, and he was like, "Okay, what was that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, exactly. Like, exactly." He checked. He was like, "There's nothing here." I told and I thought it was my uncle. I was like, "Oh, maybe it was my uncle freaking me out." They're like, "No, your uncle isn't here." And I'm like, "Ooh," because we would have heard the door. We would have heard him walk in. He would have said hi. No, this man literally came in quietly. I didn't nothing. I don't know how he got in. He goes home, and I just felt like I had eyes around me. So I stayed on the phone with him, and I'm like, "I don't feel so well." He's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, my room felt crowded. Like I was in bed, and it felt like a whole, like I would say a good 60 people were jammed in my room. That's how crowded I felt. So I was like huddled in my bed. And the one thing that I remember is that I had when I tell this story, my dad goes, "The tiger winked at her." I was like, the picture fell. There is a huge difference between if the animal would have winked at me, I would have been in a mental hospital. I wouldn't even know how to process that. That same night I told my sister, can I sleep in your bed? She's like, "Yeah, you can sleep in my bed." And every time I think about this, I get goosebumps because it's still no explanation to what happened that night. Um, Across the room, I heard the same voice that I heard years ago, the same man. I think he was talking Latin. I don't know what it was. It was a different language. I knew it was a different language because I couldn't recognize it. I kept my eyes closed during this whole thing. The end of my sister's bed, it lowered, like it literally lowered on my side. And what I did is I put the covers over my head, and I I literally sucked my stomach in to see what would happen with the and my blanket lowered like someone was sitting on me. And then you know how when someone's in your face you could feel that you can feel it that they're there, like they're really in your face. It felt like someone was sitting on top of me and they were looking at my face. I kept my eyes closed the whole time because I knew whatever I was gonna look at, it wasn't it wasn't gonna be pretty. It could have been demonic. I don't even know what it was. And my eyes were literally, they were trying to, whatever it was trying to force my eyes open. so I could look at it. So it's like, I'm here. I want you to look at me. The whole time that happened, I was pinching my sister. She wouldn't wake up. Pinching her, wouldn't wake up. So I decided to recite the only prayer that I know. So it was the Our Father. I recited that night the Our Father at least 6 times. When my eyes were slightly open, I saw like a light just go across. And all of a sudden, I was. This is the messed up part. I was able to breathe, and I turned to my sister and I smacked her. She's like, "Why did you hit me?" I was like, "You didn't feel that? You didn't feel me pinching you? Pinching you hard enough to wake her up?" She's like, "I didn't feel anything." And she had marks from when I pinched her. During that whole thing, I felt the hand touch my face while it was looking at me. And when my mother came into the room, I told her what happened and I was crying, and she's like, "What happened to your face?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "There's a bruise on your face." So that hand that I felt, it was like they were caressing my face, so I didn't know what they were going to do, you know?
Mhm.
Um since the older that I got, the more I learned about spirits and cleanses. I do them now. I cleanse my house as much as I can, and it feels so much better. Because there was so much, those spirits were very not negative, but they were very lost. But we had this one spirit. He was a male. He was a older male, and he was the one that was trying to break into my room. Um, I see them every now and then. I'll be in the kitchen and I'll see a shadow pop its head out, and he'll go back. And I'm like, if you're gonna say something, just say it now. Like, like I can see you. There have been incidents where we had a family party here, and it was a kids party, and all the kids were downstairs, and it got dead quiet, and everybody heard a baby crying upstairs. So my uncle counted all the kids, and he's like, "Did you hear that?" And then I was just like, "No." Me and my ex were like, "Yeah, no, 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 we heard it." Um, but now it's not as bad as it used to be. I think because when I was younger, I didn't know at the time I had a gift, and slowly but surely, me being understanding, me knowing, like, okay, maybe they wanted my help, but I wasn't able to help them at the time. Um,
Have you never had a
and
positive experience with any of the spirits? Is it always negative?
I'm trying to remember if there is anything positive. The one positive experience I've ever had was with my uncle who passed away from cancer. This was 4 years ago. After he passed away, I fell into a very, very deep depression because I didn't get to say goodbye. And I get emotional thinking about it. And he was in a white suit and he told me, "I'm fine." He's like, "You don't have to worry about me." I went to his grave for his birthday. I went to his grave for his birthday and a couple of days before his death anniversary. And I was like, "Oh, I miss you. I'm so sorry I couldn't see you." And while I was taught, like, while I was literally apologizing and crying my eyes out, like two birds just passed by me, just two doves, and I felt a sense of relief. But my uncle's death is something I will never get over. That left a huge hole in me. But I would see him, and I would see my great grandmother. I would see my grandfather, like my dad's dad, who passed away when my dad was 11. I would see them, and my son sees them. My son doesn't remember my uncle that much, but one day he saw a picture and he goes, "Oh, that's the uncle that talks to me." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Yeah, like my son has his gift is very like it's advancing for his age. He's about to be 8, and he can see spirits. He can talk to them. He'll tell me, he'll be like, 'Mom, the spirit wants to know, wants me to tell you, don't do a reading today.'" I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, hmm. Or he wants to learn how to read cards. Also, he'll be like, "Mom, the spirit says I need to learn how to read tarot." I was like, "Spirit or you?" Because at this point, May said, "No, the spirit." He said, "I have to watch you," and I'm like, I can't. I was like, yeah, I can't argue with the spirits.
Yeah, the
But
last time we
that was
talked,
the positive experience.
yeah,
Hmm.
the last time we talked, you mentioned a lot about you had talked to dead people,
Yeah.
conversations, right?
Hmm.
So how many dead people have you talked to over time, do you think?
I would say since I was 13, I would say a good amount. But when I was 13, I was frightened at the time and I couldn't talk or communicate with them. Like I said, I do have some spirits that'll just hover over me. And, I'm like, hey, I was like, personal space. They're like, but I want to see what you're doing. I'm like, okay, well, not much. I'm, doing work. Because you know what? Even though that they're lost, they were still human at one point and they just wanna they sometimes I feel like some of them don't realize they passed on. They just, because for them, I think this is my perspective when it comes to the spirit world, they're still stuck in their time period. So for us, we're like foreign to them. So that's why sometimes if I hear like I went to the bathroom the other day and the lid to the trash can just magic it was just open in the midair out of nowhere and it just closed. And I was like, at least you're polite. At least you closed the trash. I'm proud of you. You know? My dad would be like, if there's a spirit living here, it has to pay me rent somehow. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, no, Dad, that's not how it works. I was like, they can't pay you rent. But you know, it's it's fun, but then at the same time, it's not fun because if you're sleeping and there's one whispering in your ear while you're sleeping, and I'm just like, all right, I'm up. What's up? Like, what do you want? Like, but it has its pros and cons.
Do they
But
talk to you in your dreams?
oh yeah,
Really?
they do. They do. You think you find peace in sleeping,
Yeah,
but sometimes the way I see them, I can see them physically, or I could see them in my head where they're just like I can make out their shapes. I've had people that were not deceased pop up into my head, and I could be with someone and I'll be like, "Hey, do you know this person?" And they'll freak out, and I'm like, "All right, you need to call them because I think something's wrong with them because." And it turns out the person could have gone to a car accident or whatever.
yeah. Now, didn't you tell me last time that your mother has these kind of experiences also, or she used to, or something like that?
No, she like if ever one day if my mom's here and you want to interview her and me at the same time, she will tell you she's seen chairs move. She would hear footsteps and my mother will tell them like you need to go to the light. Like there's nothing for you here anymore. Like you need to move on. And I was like, I need to be like you because I tell them to move on and they're still there,
Yeah,
still there. Like I have had ghosts. I have spirits of children too, and that was like saddest thing because me being a mom, I've had the one that scared me the most was like the kid. There was a child. I knew it was a small child. It was tugging my blanket, and my son. I was thinking it was my son, and it wasn't. I had the same incident happen to me years ago where I was taking a nap after school, and I felt a hard tug. It was just very hard. And when I woke up, there was nobody there. At that same day, um, I had a full apparition of a grown man sitting at the edge of my bed. And how I knew was that I was trying to pull my blanket and I accidentally punched myself in the face. And I was like, oh my God, like, what the, like, I was like, I tuck it in too tight. But when I looked, it was just the back of just this man. His back was to me. And I just saw like that shadow outline. I couldn't even talk. My mother's heard the voices. Me and my mother have heard voices at the same time. We just look at each other. And she was like, I don't even want to know. I'm like, nope, me either. But it's funny because I'll tell these stories to my friend and it's like, and then, and they'll just be sitting in my kitchen and they'll be like, so you're telling me a ghost can just yank the seat out of me right now from right under me? I'm like, No, I was like, there's hardly any. Like, it's not like before. So I'm safe. I'm like, yeah, unless you want to be like, Zach Baggins and just provoke these ghosts and then leave me. Like, I was like, oh my God, I love ghost adventures. Like, Zach Baggins, when he provokes the ghost and he'll throw his friend Aaron, he's like, I'm going to provoke this ghost. I'm going to get it angry. I'm going to call it out. And then I'm going to lock Aaron in a room for 2 hours.
But isn't
I'm
all
like,
that show fake?
no,
No, you don't think so?
the one that everyone claimed was, well, no, their show is actually very real because he has a Las Vegas museum, haunted museum, and it has all the items. So his museum is very similar to like the museum of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed and Lorraine Warren have a underground museum where they had cases of hauntings and exorcisms, and they took the items from those cases because usually entities hold on to certain items because it's like a vessel for them. Like Patrick Wilson stated in the first Conjuring movie, it's like keeping the genie in the bottle. You never want to. You just keep the entity in that vessel, and it's very true because when you pass on, some spirits always have an attachment to something. There's always going to be attachment. It could be pictures, it could be clothing, um, it could be jewelry, it could be a home, it could be simple furniture, it could be anything. So his museum is very much real, and I would love to go to Las Vegas and go. But when it comes to me picking up so much energy, my mom would tell me, she's like, will you be ready to see all of those spirits and stuff like that? And I was like, I see them almost every day, Mom. We're good. Because each of those items have a story to it.
So, do you ever get spirits from the future? Does that happen?
No, I don't. The day that happens, I think I'm gonna go fully gray. I'll be like, they told me too much. Well, what we consider for us for spiritual people, those futuristic spirit you're talking about, we call them higher beings. So it's basically like there's an older version of me that I can communicate to. So it's like a more advanced spiritual version of me that helps me in a way. I've seen her too. I'm like, wow, I wish I could be you. She was like, yeah, if you listen, you can. And I'm just like, I'm only 26. Let's calm it down there. Like, and but I we call them higher selves because they're literally beings. They're just more advanced than we are. They know things we don't. And you can talk to them through meditation. You can call out to them. You could literally sit in a room by yourself and just. And that's the one thing I love about meditating. I have seen angels. Angels are very scary.
Angels are
Angels
scary.
in the Bibles, they are. Angels are um angels are not what we see on TV. Nope. Nope. They're not. They're not like, nope. I've had experiences where I've seen angels, and I've had experiences where I've seen archangels, and you know, sometimes I'll see them and I'll call my mom. I'm like, Mom, guess what I saw? Because I know she, like, my mom's very supportive. She knows that like it's a gift and I won't be able to hide it. Wait till she finds out about him. She'll be like, oh my God. But angels are actually there's actually different type of angels, very different. But the ones I would see, I was like, can you angels the way they're described in the Bible? That's how they actually look in real life. I was like, no way. There's no way. No, no, they look like that. For me, the archangels, they come to me in a different form. So that I'm very appreciative. I only work like they're very real. I tell people I was like, whatever, I was like, I don't care what your belief is, but when that day an angel comes to you, that's when you start believing, you know? And it's a very honestly it's a very beautiful experience. Depends on like the moment, you know. I've woken up to three archangels next to my bed, looking down at me, and I'm like, "Is it my time to go?" Cause like, how else was I gonna think? Just imagine waking up at like 8 in the morning and you just see them pop up next to your bed, and I'm just like, "Well, looks like it's my time to go."
So did they talk to you?
They did.
What did they say?
They were. I've seen Archangel Michael. I've seen Archangel Gabriel, and they were like, everything's okay. I've had an experience where I was pregnant with my son. I didn't find out till later, and I was scared. I was literally scared because I was young. And in the dream, I had, the Virgin Mary talking. And in the dream, my stomach was huge. I was almost ready to pop in my dream. And I was panicking because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be a teen mom. I don't know if I'll be able to give my son the life that he needs. And the Virgin Mary just comes out to me and she says, there's someone that wants to talk to you. And when I talk about this, I get emotional too. So because it was a very calming experience. I didn't feel no fear. I wasn't scared. And a man comes out, and I'm like, oh, I was like, it's Jesus Christ. And his voice was very soothing. He was very calming, and he said, everything is going to be okay. He's going to be fine. You have no worries. He was like, this child is meant to be in your life, and he was like, he's a blessing. He's literally an angel. Like that's how I see him. His name is Angel, and that's how my family sees him. Like a blessing in disguise, because he's brought so much light and life into this family. I
What
just heard
happened?
something move. I
Oh,
just heard something move. Yeah. He's brought so much. He's made a huge difference in our lives, and like I couldn't be any more grateful. And till this day, I tell my mom, I was like, yeah, that. I was like, Jesus and Mary were right. It is okay. And she just looks at me. She's like, oh my God. But she believes me because my mother is very. She believes in the Virgin. Like she's very religious. She prays. I recently started learning the Rosary because it was just. I was like, you know what? I was just I found my rosary that went missing. My stuff goes missing also because spirits like to move my stuff, you know. To an extent, I'll have my rosary here, and one day it wasn't there, and I couldn't find it for like a few months, and then one day, excuse me, I was just looking through my drawers and it was there, and I'm like, I'm pretty because it's always next to my nightstand every night because I always feel like I have to do this the rosary. It's a feeling that I have to do it now because it gives me a sense of calming and peace, and I can go to sleep knowing that I feel very protected.
yeah.
You know.
Did you tell me once that you spent the night in a graveyard? Somebody told me that. Was that you?
No, Steve. See, now we're going a little too far there. Like I wouldn't. I would. I would visit the graveyard, spend the night. No,
Yeah,
you
I
didn't.
was thinking
You know
that would
what?
be wild for you. There's somebody.
Oh no, they'll have they'll have such a party with me. I'll definitely have gray hairs then. I'll be like, Mom, I went from 26 to 46 in one night. You should like when I go I always wanted to go to graveyards, but like my friends, I love exploring abandoned places and graveyards. My friends will look at me and they're like, you can do that on your own. I was like, but why? I was like, you know how much fun it is? And they're like, no, no, you see? All that dead stuff, that spooky stuff, no. I have some friends that are like that,
Yeah.
but it's
Did you
funny because
ever did you ever play around with the Ouija board?
no,
No.
no. And there's a story with the Ouija board that my mother will tell you the incident that we had here with the Ouija board that she found. My son was 3 at the time, was 2 or 3, and I was working, and my mother sent me a text, and um, she's like, quick question. I'm like, yeah, what's up? She's like, "You don't own a Ouija board, right?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I know better than to stay away from that." Well, you have to know how to use it. Like you really have to know how to use it, and nothing bad will ever happen. I was like, "Why?" She's like, "I'll tell you when you get home." I get home, and my mother sits me down, and she was like, "We found a Ouija board that was just used, and it was thrown in our brand new pool. That pool, we just got it. My parents got it for my son so he could swim in it." I'm like, "How the hell did that end up in our pool?" And she was saying, she was washing dishes, and my dad was fixing something. I don't know if my dad was fixing something. I really don't remember. And they heard the way the Ouija board fell into the pool. They were having a heart attack because they thought my toddler fell into the pool, because if it sounded like a body just got dumped. So they both went running outside, and my dad saw the board, and it was face down, and he got it out, and when he flipped it over, it was a Ouija board
Hmm.
with the wax, like the wax was still kind of soft. So that means somebody was using it, and they were trying to use our pool to close that portal. Um,
You mean like the hell
yeah.
mouth kind of thing that Buffy had?
And the funny thing is, the moment that Ouija board was thrown in, my dad didn't hear anybody in the back of our house, because in the back of that house, our house, we have like a wooded plot where people usually go in, but he didn't see anyone when it happened.
Yeah.
So I feel like that could have amped things up a bit, because like after that, I've seen my ex has a doppelganger, and I used to see it walk around the house when he was working, and it would mock him too. Like he took my son out. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get food with the baby." He was like, "I'll be right back." I'm like, "Okay." I showered. I thought he was home already, and I heard the voice downstairs go, "Babe." And I'm like, "Yeah, I just came out the shower." There was no voice after that. It was just complete silence. Not even 20 minutes later, he walks in through the door, through my bedroom, and I went white. And he was like, "What happened?" And I was like, "I thought you were home already." He was like, "No, I just got here." I switched to the number, and I was like, I almost pissed myself. And okay, yeah. And it was very scary, because you don't I didn't know what it was at the time. And that's when I started learning about skinwalkers and stuff like that, that could have been mimicking that can mimic people, or could have, I don't know. But since I've cleaned the house, I cleansed my house 10 times in one day. I was like, I'm not dealing with this no more. Nope. Nope. I was like, bad out, good in. And I was making jokes. I was like, the demons are running around the house trying to figure out where the hell to get out, even though the doors and windows are open. And my friends will like crack up. So
Now, obviously, you live in a haunted house, but do you ever visit other haunted houses, like
no, I would like to.
investigations and things?
No, I would like to. And my mom's like, "Don't you dare." I was like, "But I want to." I was like, "I want," and then she was like, "I don't think you can handle it." I was like, "Please." And then I go to a haunted house. It's a regular fun haunted house, and I die on the spot. Like, it's so bad. They'll make fun of me for it too. They're like, how can you not handle people in costumes? I'm like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Did you not see that man with the pig mask on? Would you not run too? This is not Texas Chainsaw Massacre." Because it's like so real in that moment, that when your adrenaline's rushing, you're just like, go. But
Yeah,
I do want to visit. So, my
seems
mommy
like
says
you'd be a
no.
natural for something like that.
Yeah, my mama says no, though. Gotta listen to mama. Can't say nothing. Fun. Fun.
Is that your mama?
Yeah. No, no, it's my son. And yeah, oh my no, no. Well, I didn't even know that. No. But yeah.
So when spirits contact you, do they seek you out specifically? Are they looking for you?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. Like I will see them, and then they're like, "Oh, you." They'll look at me, and I'm just like, "Oh, don't look at them. Don't look at them." Because you know what it is. Sometimes they'll try to get your attention, some way, shape, or form. And now that I'm able, like, I'm still learning. I'm still learning my mediumship. I'm still learning how to tap into it. It's kind of hard, but I'm doing it little by little because I love helping them. Like I'll literally, and it's sometimes people. It's like spirits in different time period clothing, which I love, you know. And I would try to hear the story, but sometimes I don't get to hear that much of it, you know. Sometimes some of them speak a lot, sometimes some of them don't.
Yeah,
It's either like, hey, like, okay, I guess you want to go, huh? I was trying to get to know you, but I guess not. But like spirits seek out to whoever they feel drawn to. I feel like, you know.
so do you ever
So
sense spirits when you're talking to somebody like on a Zoom call like this?
I do sometimes.
Do
When I do, like I said, when I do readings, I'm be like, I just want to let you know your grandma came through, and they'll be like, oh my god, really? I've actually had my best friend. I was talking to my best friend. I don't know if I have it, and I told him I was like, hey, I was like, is your grandmother short and she had salt and pepper hair? He was like, well, I really didn't get to meet her because she passed away. I was like, did she have like light eyes in a way? He was like, hold on, let me see if I can get a picture. And the moment he showed me the picture, I just froze over. I was like, that's her. I was like, that's the woman that I just saw. She popped up when I was texting him, and he was like, holy shit. He was like, he didn't believe me at first, and then he was like, oh crap, she has salt and pepper hair in this picture. And he just got goosebumps everywhere. And he was like, oh my god. He's like, so I believe you now when you say you can see spirits. I'm like, so it took me to see your grandmother for you to believe. So, but it was nice. Like the only thing she wanted me to tell him that like she was always watching over him.
yeah,
And he was like, oh, he's like, I never knew that. I was like, yeah. I was like, every time if you got like when you got into a car accident or whatever, she was there to make sure you weren't hit badly or nothing would have disastrous would have
yeah.
happened. So
Do you have nightmares?
yes, I do.
I do too, lots of them.
My the scariest one I've ever had was I was meditating. I meditate before I go to bed, and I just had this weird feeling. And in my meditation, I asked, show me the truth, and I saw what I saw, and whatever I saw was not happy that it was exposed to me, and it literally leaped at me when I was meditating, and I fell into a sleep paralysis. And in that sleep paralysis, like my head was stuck looking out my window, and I just saw like three or four hooded figures just walk by, and it was an ongoing loop because I stayed stuck like that, and they were just going back and forth. So they know I can see them.
Mm.
And it got to one point I heard my cat screech because I thought something happened to my cat. And when I finally got out of it, I was looking for my cat. I was like, "Oh my god, where is he?" Like I heard something. Like I know it was him. And he pops out from wherever he was, and I'm like, I'm definitely sure he saw the same thing that I saw. He just went into hiding, you know, because cats are actually gatekeepers of the spirit world. Of We call it the underworld. So they see things better than we do. So if he stares at a ceiling, I know he's staring at a spirit. So Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna have to take me to a haunted house sometimes and introduce me
will
to
you
it.
make it, Steve? This is the question. Will you make it?
I don't know.
You're like, I don't know. I'll find out one of these days. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be like, what's that over there? A
Yeah,
6 foot spirit? Never seen that. Goodbye. The
yeah.
one place I always wanted to go to was like mental hospitals where a lot has happened because I pick up so much crazy energy there. Um, like here, we have a hospital and it's called Pilgrim State, and it's like it was a Pilgrim State hospital, and then we have a Kings Park hospital. Kings Park is known to be actually very haunted, also. And I've always wanted to go, and my friends are like, "Well, you missed your chance. You can't go now." I'm like, "Dang it!" Because security is all over that. Because since the place is rotting and falling apart, you can get seriously hurt, and the building is so tall. It excuse me. It overtowers the trees. It's literally a very tall mental hospital, and I did my research on those buildings, and like I was emotional because I was finding out back then they would take patients like my brother, who is just 24 autistic. He is medium autistic. He's on the autistic roster. You wouldn't even think he's autistic because he looks very normal. But back then they didn't want to deal with that, so they would stick them into these mental hospitals, and they would do these crazy things where they used to perform experiments like ice baths, shock therapy. um, I forgot what it was
Probably myth.
called when they would drill the middle of your head and they would drain out the blood because they felt like, oh, it was a disease or whatever,
Bloodletting.
you know.
Bloodletting is what they called that.
I didn't know that. Yeah, and I got very emotional. And one day, when my cousin came from Colorado, me, him, and his best friend, we were riding in the car and we rode through that abandoned, because there's a road and there's warehouses behind it. So we had to take that shortcut to get to where we needed to. And my cousin was driving the car and he freaked out. Like he freaked out completely, and we were like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" And he was like, "There was someone hanging from a tree." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" He was like, "No." He's like, "I literally saw someone hanging from a tree." And when we went back, we didn't see anything. He was like, "I saw someone." He's like, "I know I did." He's like, I'm not crazy." I'm like, "I'm not calling you crazy." I was like, "Did you forget?" He was like, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "Yeah, yeah, sorry." So, psychiatric mental hospitals hold so much energy. They hold so much history also,
Yeah,
that you will always get crazy amounts of, you know, footage, or, EVPs. Um, some people that have gone, they always felt like a. Some people will say, like, if you ever go, to always be careful, to always make sure you have protection, because there's always a feeling of a demonic entity in those things. And it's sad because I've seen episodes where psychics do pick up demonic entities, all because demonic entities have a hold on those locations, because those it's the souls that wander, it's the souls that were lost and that can never get out.
yeah.
So
Did
Steve's like,
you
well,
you watch the American Horror Story? Did you watch that?
yes, the show, right?
Yeah. Do you remember the season
Hmm.
where they had the house that was like that, had all these spirits in it?
Yeah,
I
that was
loved
the
that. That
first
was
one. Yep,
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite episode was that one, the hotel, um,
Yeah.
the the
Coven.
witch coven, the
Coven.
coven episode,
Yeah.
and the one that I liked the most also was Roanoke, about about like the famous,
Yeah,
like,
that's okay.
group that disappeared. It was okay. I was like, I could have felt like they could have done more, but then apparently it was debunked that Indians came and they found them and they took them in and they adapted to the Native American culture. So they became part of their tribe. That's why they weren't able to find them. You
Yeah.
know, it was actually a pretty interesting documentary. I was like, oh, so
Yeah.
that's where they were the whole time. I thought they ate each other and left nothing behind. I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. But
Yeah. That was a great series.
it was. It is still. Like it
Well,
is still.
I'm going to have bad dreams now about all your ghost stories.
I'm sorry, Steve. I'm sorry. Um, I'm gonna sleep easily tonight, and then there's gonna be you and gonna be like, "Well, I can't sleep anymore. Thanks." I'm gonna be like, "Night." I don't know how my son sleep. My son just tells me casually, "I can see spirits," and I talk to them too. I'm like, "You're not scared?" He goes, "Nope." I'm like, I'm like, okay. Oh, hold on, baby. Okay.
Well, I
I don't
will
know what.
let you go. It's been nice talking to you as usual.
Mm. Nice talk. I hope you have a good night's rest. After all this paranormal talk,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Then I'm just gonna be like, I don't think I'm gonna visit a haunted house after this.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll
I think
start
if anyone sees this,
Rosary.
they're gonna. Yeah, I think if anyone sees this, they're gonna be like, she needed a priest at that time. I didn't know I was young. I was young.
Yeah.
So
Well, I tell you what, it's been fun. Maybe we'll do it again soon.
definitely. I'm always here, Steve. I work from home. I work from
Okay.
home. That's the fun right now.
Yeah.
Working from home.
And you want to plug your website?
Um, yes. I always gotta look for it. I'm still in shock that I have a website, so sometimes it doesn't hit me till like later that I actually did it. So for my readings to book, you can go to readings by Gab www.readingsbygab.squarespace.com. And I have, for some reason, nobody can find my Facebook page. I gotta fix that. But that's if you guys want a reading. So it's www.readingsbygap.squarespace.com.
Okay, there you go. Well, I will send you a link to this, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
also put it on my website, www.steveholder2020.com. I always have my latest episode and the most popular. Who knows? You may be the both. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, good night to you and all your spirits, and sweet dreams and all that good stuff.
You too. I hope
Oh,
you can
yeah.
sleep. I
Yeah,
hope you can sleep. I feel so bad now.
me too. Okay.
And
I'll be
thank you.
okay. Good night.
Oh, bye.